Hello and welcome to History Sleep Stories. Tonight, we will drift into the world of pirates, not the Hollywood kind with parrots and treasure maps, but the real men and women who sailed during what historians call the Golden Age of Piracy. This period stretched roughly from the 1650s to the 1730s, a time when thousands of sailors left behind legal trades and turned instead to plundering the vast sea lanes of Europe, the Caribbean, Africa, and the Indian Ocean. To understand what it was like to be a pirate, we must step into their world. The harsh conditions at sea, the struggles of empires, the brotherhood on board, the violence, the rewards, and the short, uncertain lives that became legend. The Golden Age of Piracy didn't just appear out of nowhere. It grew from major shifts in global commerce and power. By the mid-1600s, European nations like Spain, England, France, and Portugal were building vast colonial networks. The Caribbean islands and the American coast became hubs of trade, producing sugar, tobacco, and silver. Ships, heavily laden and often lightly defended, carried these riches back to Europe. At the same time, long wars drained governments of money and left thousands of sailors unemployed. After the War of the Spanish Succession ended in 1713, Britain discharged tens of thousands of naval men. Many had no work. Others were tired of the meager wages and harsh discipline in the merchant service. Piracy offered both an opportunity and a way to get revenge on the very system that had used and discarded them. This mix of rich shipping routes and desperate, experienced seamen created the perfect conditions for piracy to flourish. For the sailor who turned pirate, daily life was both harsh and strangely liberating. Unlike on naval vessels, pirate ships often operated on shared decision-making. Captains were elected by the crew and could be voted out if they lost their confidence. This was a radical departure from the rigid hierarchies of European navies, where officers came from wealthy families and sailors endured brutal discipline. The most important document on a pirate ship was the Articles of Agreement. These articles laid out the rules of conduct, how plunder would be divided, and compensation for injuries. For instance, a pirate who lost an arm or a leg might be compensated with several hundred pieces of eight. This created a sense of fairness and mutual responsibility among the crew. Of course, pirate life was still life at sea, with all its difficulties. Days were spent maintaining the ship, mending sails, cleaning decks, and keeping weapons in working order. Food was basic: salted meat, hard biscuits, and whatever fresh supplies could be captured or bought. Water spoiled quickly, so beer and rum became common substitutes. Sleeping quarters were cramped, with hammocks slung side by side. Privacy was a luxury they did not have. Yet, many pirates preferred this rough equality to the whippings and hunger common in legal service. Despite the myths of constant chaos, pirate ships enforced strict discipline when it came to battle readiness. Weapons had to be kept sharp and loaded. Gunpowder had to be dry. Lookouts had to stay alert for merchant sails or approaching naval patrols. A crew that failed to work together risked capture and execution. The pirate code varied from ship to ship, but was built on shared principles. A famous version comes from the ship of Bartholomew Roberts, known as Black Bart. His articles included rules against gambling, strict times for lights out, equal shares of plunder, and even a ban on bringing women aboard. These rules provided stability and fairness in a world outside the law. They also reflected the communal spirit of piracy. While naval sailors earned tiny wages as officers grew rich, pirates divided their spoils equally, with maybe a double share for the captain and quartermaster. For many, this equality was a powerful reason to join. No discussion of this era is complete without mentioning Blackbeard. His real name was Edward Teach. Tall and imposing, with a thick black beard tied with ribbons, he used terror as his greatest weapon. Witnesses said he would light slow-burning fuses under his hat during battle, surrounding his face with smoke. Blackbeard commanded the Queen Anne's Revenge, a former French slave ship he refitted with dozens of guns. He operated in the Caribbean and along the American coast, blockading ports and extorting ransoms. Yet his reign lasted barely 2 years before he was killed in battle with the Royal Navy off North Carolina in Consis 1718. Women rarely appear in naval records, but Anne Bonny and Mary Read became legends by breaking the mold. Both disguised themselves as men at times, but eventually fought openly. Sailing with the pirate Calico Jack Rackham, they were known for their ferocity in combat. When their ship was finally captured, most of the male crew were hiding below deck, but Bonny and Read resisted fiercely. Their stories show that piracy, while male-dominated, offered a different path for those who defied social norms. Then there was Bartholomew Roberts, or Black Bart. He was perhaps the most successful pirate of the era, capturing over 400 vessels. Unlike Blackbeard, he cultivated a gentlemanly image, dressing in fine clothes and treating captives with relative restraint. His strict articles created order among his men. Roberts was killed in battle in 1722, and his death is often seen as a turning point in the decline of the Golden Age. Piracy was built on intimidation. The sight of the black flag, often adorned with skulls, skeletons, or weapons, was usually enough to make a merchant crew surrender without a fight. Pirates wanted plunder, not prolonged battles. A reputation for cruelty, whether deserved or not, was a powerful psychological tool. But the violence was real. Captives who resisted might be killed. Sailors who refused to join could be marooned left on a deserted shore with few supplies. Still, compared to naval punishments like flogging or hanging, some found pirate justice more consistent and less arbitrary. Pirates needed safe places to rest, repair their ships, and spend their loot. Certain locations became infamous havens. Port Royal, Jamaica, was known in the late 1600s as the wickedest city on earth, full of taverns where pirates and privateers mixed freely. Nassau in the Bahamas became a veritable pirate republic in the early 1700s, self-governed by pirates who used it as a base. Madagascar, in the Indian Ocean, served as a hideout for those preying on rich ships sailing between India and the Red Sea. These havens offered a temporary refuge, but governments eventually cracked down, sending warships to restore control. By the 1720s, piracy faced overwhelming pressure. European empires, which had once tolerated or even secretly supported privateers, now saw them as a major threat to trade. Naval patrols increased, international cooperation improved, and harsh laws targeted pirate crews. Captured pirates were usually tried quickly and executed by hanging, their bodies sometimes displayed in cages near harbors as a grim warning. By the mid-18th century, large-scale piracy had been largely suppressed. To be a pirate during the Golden Age was to live a life of extremes. It meant freedom and democracy at sea, things that were rare in a rigidly hierarchical world. It meant constant danger from storms, disease, naval patrols, or betrayal. It meant moments of incredible wealth and excess, spending captured gold in rowdy port towns. But it also meant brief careers, often ending in battle or at the gallows. For many sailors, piracy wasn't a romantic choice, but a desperate one, an escape from poverty and oppression. Yet for a short time, they created communities that challenged the order of empires. Though the Golden Age ended nearly 3 centuries ago, its memory lives on. Folklore, novels, and films have transformed historical pirates into symbols of adventure and rebellion. Historians remind us that the reality was much harsher. Pirates were outlaws who lived violent, dangerous lives. Yet in their brief challenge to the world's great powers, they revealed another side of that era, a floating society built on equality, risk, and defiance. This has been our journey into what it was like to be a pirate. From the cramped hammocks to the roar of cannons, from the articles of agreement to the gallows at the harbor's edge, the story of piracy is both brutal and fascinating. The Golden Age lasted less than a century, but it left behind legends that still capture our imaginations. As you drift toward rest, let the waves of history carry you. The sea is calmer now, the black flags are furled, and the voices of those who once sailed under them are fading into the night. Good night from History Sleep Stories. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this journey, please consider subscribing for more stories from the past.